Hello, this is Joe from Camera Lessons Online. Today we are continuing a two-part video series that we started on the importance of custom color profiles. In the last video, I talked about how important custom profiles are, how they build out the color that is missing out of your camera. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you create a custom profile in Capture One. Let's get into it. So a custom color profile is something that builds out the color that's missing out of your camera. This is not the same as correct color temperature or white balance, which is just a correct neutral point. This is actually finding colors that your camera is missing. And every camera is missing some part of the full color spectrum. And today we're going to look at how we build that out, and it's with a custom profile. So to do this, we need a tool called a color checker passport. This is one right here. It's from a company called X-Rite. And the color checker passport is set up in a very particular way. We use it for several different uses. The first is for custom white balancing. Up here we have white balancing for portraiture and one for landscape. And you'll notice that with the portrait one, we have this box with a little notch cut out of it at the beginning. And with the landscape one, it's in the middle, the notch cut out of it. And here's why. With the portrait one, we have a true neutral white balance. So we can white balance right off of that particular swatch and get an accurate white balance reading. These other ones get cooler and cooler. Well, the reason is if you white balance off of something cooler, then your skin tone will warm up. And since we warm up skin tone, but we don't usually cool down skin tone, these start there and get cooler. Now, with landscape, we might want to cool down the landscape. And so we have some warmer swatches, and we might want to warm up the landscape, so we have some cooler swatches. Now that's just your neutral point, your correct white balance. Down here we have some colors, and these are what create the custom profile. First we start with some colors that are related to human skin tone, so some browns and some peaches. Then we have some blue to build out sky, some green to build out grass, and then we start having some really bold colors that are used to test the color that is missing out of your camera. And so there's a software that X-Rite creates, and it's right down here, and it's called the Color Checker Camera Calibration, as you can see. You just download it from their website. And that knows how to read these swatches and build out the profile. So let's take a look at how we do that. Okay, so we're over here in this color panel, and underneath this section called Base Characteristics, we're going to see ICC Profile, and we're going to create a new one. Right now, there is a generic profile for whatever camera you are using, in my case, a Sony A7R Mark IV. And you're going to see some people who might say that the way that you build out your profile is to go to this curve section and go to linear response, which really flattens the image. I've actually found that using linear response does not give me as accurate of an end profile. I've done it both ways and have not been happy with the results in linear response. So I actually do leave that in auto, but for ICC profile, we actually do want to get rid of any additional edits that the software is doing. So I'm going to go down to Effects and go to No Color Correction. And you see how that really takes away any enhancement or saturation boost out of the image. So at this point, we have the image. Now, some people will actually go to their cropping tool and crop just this portion here, which is all that's necessary to actually build out the profile. The software from X-Rite is actually intelligent enough to be able to read this and figure it out, and I've never found that to be necessary so long as the color checker passport is about 25% the size of the frame give or take. That's all that I've found to be necessary. So what we need to do is take a look at the way we export a version of this. And we're going to come over here to the Color Checker Camera Calibration software. And what you're going to see is that over here it says ICC, International Color Consortium. That's the standard profile extension, you can see. And then it says TIFF. So it actually needs a TIFF file in order to create the profile. So what we're going to do is we're going to export a variant of this image. Of course, it started off as a RAW file. And we are going to, this is going to be a daylight profile. We're going to make this into a TIFF, just like that. And we're going to export this one variant. So this was my daylight image, and I also have one that is shade. And you do need to have a different profile for each camera in each lighting condition. So if you have a couple cameras that are different from each other, you will need to have different profiles for each camera in each lighting condition in order to be as accurate as possible. So what we can do is come down to my downloads folder and find daylight profile, and I'm just going to drag it straight in. Okay, so the software has read the swatches perfectly fine, and we can actually take these little green dots and move to get these swatches to be centered inside of the little green patches, to be centered inside of the color swatches, just to make sure it reads every panel accurately. Once that's done, we hit Create Profile. That's it. That's all that you have to do. When we do this, it's going to ask you for the name of the profile. And since I have already done this, I'm going to do A7R4 Daylight 2 because I already have one from creating the profile earlier. And then we hit Save. Now, what's important here is it creates the profile and knows where to save it, but Capture One cannot actually see or use this profile until we restart the software. So you would have to quit Capture One and relaunch it. Now we are not going to have to do that since I've already built a profile off of this particular image to be able to show you. So all that we have to do then, after relaunching the software, is go to our profile, and under Other, you're going to see everything that you have made before. So you're going to see that I have one for daylight, for my ProPhoto strobes, which I've actually created twice with different modifiers, and for shade. So I'm just going to come over here to daylight. And immediately, if you were watching, this totally changed the color that the software could actually see and that the camera produced. Watch in particular the purples, the yellows, the deep blues, and I believe also the pinks here. We're going to go back to the generic and then the custom profile. Generic, custom profile. And one more time, the generic and the custom profile. Now, this is not an edit. I did not add saturation. I did not add vibrancy. This is just building out the color that's missing in the camera. And so that's how hard it is to create a custom profile in Capture One. Thanks for watching, and I hope this is helpful.